Looks like it's another day in greenhouse. All it seems to do is rain, and I think we've got a storm blowing in on top, so doesn't stop me coming in greenhouse and doing a few bits and bobs, as long as I don't stand over there, because it leaks a bit when it rains. I've been looking through some more of my pepper plants, and I think they're getting a little bit stressed. I've noticed that this one has dropped a couple of flowers, which is a sign that your pepper's a bit stressed. I really need to stay on top of potting these plants on. It doesn't hurt just to free those roots up a little bit. You can see they're starting to tangle as well. What I normally do with these plants is I top them, and I ain't done them this year. There's lots of controversy surrounding topping your peppers. Makes them a bigger, better plant that produces more fruit. But when I get to a certain point, I definitely go around all bottoms of these and I'll take all these leaves away at bottom. They're quite big leaves, but they're not going to do anything now. And the farther away these leaves are from that compost, the better. We don't want to go and get diseases in this plant from them constantly getting wet. Plus, I'd rather it put more energy into top roof or new side shoots than leaves that's already established and aren't doing anything. So, for that reason, take them all away. So it looks a bit cleaner on bottom. If you get side shoots on your plants, it's going to make more branches, which should make more flowers and more fruit. And on this one, we've got quite a few flowers on it, but we've only got one very tiny pepper. And I think that's the direct effect of not putting it on. And I really want to go and get a container and just pot it on to see if it makes much difference over the next couple of weeks. But I'm going to get drowned, I can see, and I ain't got one in me. I should definitely have fixed that other day when I mentioned it. When we get these really bad downpours, it's coming in and it's wetting all leaves of those tomato plants, which is definitely not good. So that's going to be the first job to do it morning. I'm still getting odd cheeky tomato though while I'm in here. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon, this. I've just found another leak. This is not what it should be like in middle of July. I must admit though, when it does this, that air becomes so much fresher. And I'm really glad I didn't water anything in that container garden. I've got some more of them French beans come through as well. We decided to regrow some more dwarf varieties. And they're alright, they're on the way. This container's a bit wet though, very heavy. I'll have to leave that to dry out for a few days. I'll nip and get a container while it's baited a bit. That's the 1 hour after. I still got wet through. It's quite a good sized container this, and it's quite deep. So I was thinking, if I transfer this pepper plant into here, it should push out quite a lot more. I think I've got about 3 left in this size pot, but if they're only going to grow tiny little peppers like that, they're no good. So we'll be better moving it on. I'm just going to put this one right in the centre, but I make sure I don't leave this where there's any leaks as well. I might take it back indoors. I've just put a little sprinkle of fish, wood and bone in there as well to help this plant on its way. And I'm just going to take it back out. We've already loosened off those roots anyway, so we'll just get it straight in. And then put that compost back around it. This is some recycled compost as well, which is the best thing to use when you're doing experiments like this. I'm just making sure it's nicely firmed in. Not exactly central, but it'll do. Then I'll just see how this one gets on. As far as I know, that's a sweet bell pepper as well. So it'll be interesting to see how good they get on in its new container. Ironically, it does need watering. I've just checked into the greenhouse and we've got 4 more in exactly the same pots. Difference being, these ones have got better sized peppers on them. This one is actually trying to grow 3 all at once, which is pretty amazing for a plant that's in a 2 litre pot, and I bet it's definitely root bound. And then we've got this one, and this one has also got 3 peppers on it, which made me think this one is basically the same size with lots of flowers on it, but it's only got 1 tiny little pepper. So maybe these need a new lease of life. I've got 4 left, like I said, but what I'm wanting to do is keep 2 of these in these pots, and then I'm going to use them as perennial house plants. As it gets to autumn and we lose light levels and it gets a bit cooler, I'll be taking these 2 indoors and then see if we can overwinter them and grow bigger plants. And they always say that when you do that, you should prune virtually all the foliage off your plants and just leave a main stem and this part. It's like a Y shape in your plant. So you're only supposed to leave that and cut everything else off. And I've done that for a couple of years on trot, and they've not survived. So this year I'm just going to use it as an house plant. I'll take off a few at bottom leaves, I'll trim it back, I'll prune it a little bit, and then we'll just keep it on a sunny window and see if it makes any difference, because the previous times it's just not worked. And just keep on top of things like that, leaves that's touching that compost. We had enough problems, as it were, with aphids. These plants haven't got aphids on them anymore because the natural predators have took care of that little job for us. We are getting little bits of side growth on these plants as well. Extra little shoots that's trying to come up right there. So I think 2 of these plants will be worth doing on that experiment. And because we're not actually trying to grow them over winter to produce fruit, we don't really need to put them in a big container. We can put them in something a little bigger than that and loosen those roots off. But when you overwinter your peppers, you don't need to take them in huge pots. Something like that, it'd be perfectly fine. And you can see they've all got the same characteristic, that Y shape. This one's got 3 or 4 buds on it, but as yet, not a single pepper growing. It has also got a lot of leaves on the bottom again. So while we're remembering, we'll take them off. And there's little side shoots right at the bottom that's appearing as well. You might as well take those off, because they'll just grow into more leaves that are too close to the bottom. I'll take that one off as well. That's a lot cleaner. But this is not a bad sized plant, and it might be due to the fact that we moved it into a bigger container a bit earlier, but yet it's not fruiting, and the ones in the smaller containers are. I did say it's a very strange year. I have got a couple of those containers spare, so I'll probably move these 2 into something like that, a bit bigger. Maybe then these fruits will get a little bigger. I have said it before though, if you get little baby peppers like that, and that's all we got out of plants in containers that size, I'd still be happy. They're still perfectly edible. And another thing you can do if you want is take the fruits off. When they get to a certain size, just take them off and then put them indoors where it's warm, and they'll ripen off of the plant. It's one of the problems we seem to have in this country when we grow peppers. They need a really long growing season, So a lot of time you just end up with loads of green peppers by end of year, and you don't get any yellow, red or orange ones, which are the sweeter ones. And the only way to combat that, if it happens to you, is if you've got quite big fruits and it's getting to that point where it's getting a bit cooler, then just take them off, put them inside and leave them. You could also put them in a brown paper bag and leave them in dark. Apparently that method works as well. I've done it with tomatoes and it definitely works. I've never tried it with peppers though. So we'll see how we go with that. So once again, if you grow peppers every year and it just seems like all you ever get is green ones, that's not your fault. That's because this growing season is not long enough or warm enough to make these fruits fully ripen. These plants are exactly the same as well. It's not going to hurt your plants by loosening all those roots off on bottom. It'll prevent it from choking itself. I've got some of these spare wash bowls, and although they're not really deep, they are quite wide, and we've drilled holes in bottom. So I think I'm just going to pop one of peppers in this and see if that extra width gets us any bigger fruits. And I've also got some of these containers, which are a lot bigger. I think these are about 15 litre. Put one in quite a big container. We'll put one in one of these wash bowls, see how that gets on, and we'll put the other in this bigger one. And then I think we've covered pretty much every angle, considering we've also got them outside in ground. And then we can see by end of season which one produces the biggest peppers. And we'll keep 2 of those for overwintering. I'm going to do exactly the same with every plant. And we'll use that one because that's the one that had 3 quite big peppers on it. The roots on that one seem even worse. So we'll just be really rough with them, get them loosened off and get them straight in. Then I'll just fill back around plant. We have got one in other greenhouse that's in ground, which is completely different to every other one in there. There's about 13 there, but one of them has grown about this tall and it's got no fruit on it at all, which is really strange. I'm going to pop that outside now it's in that big container so it gets a bit of natural watering. I think it's a perfect day for it. And then I'll pop this one on and I'll use some of that new compost we bought. That one's called Westland. Not sure how good this compost is. It's first time I bought it as far as I can remember. So this is the one that we was doing because it's not deep, it's just a little bit wider. And again, we'll use that other one that's got 3 peppers on it. A little feed and straight in. And I'm going to slightly bury the stem on this one as well, see if that makes any difference to it. Really compact it down as well. I'll make sure there's a gap around that edge so water don't flow straight off, we don't want that. But at the same time, I've mounded it up. And I'll pop that one outside as well for 10 minutes. And I think at that we've basically covered every angle possible. We've got some in little containers and then they get bigger and bigger, and then we'll compare all those to the ones that's in the ground, which should be the natural growing habitat. And we'll see if it makes any difference whatsoever. If you want to see how these plants turn out over the next few weeks, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I'll see you next time. Take care.